I hope everybody's doing well. I'm out here on the beach at Westport after a king tide. The king tide ended up doing a lot more damage than I thought it would in the area. You can see some of the gravel piled up on the sides. Usually it's flat across here. These rocks aren't normally on this, but they had to move stuff around to get some of the sand out from behind the bar there. I was quite impressed with the damage that this king tide did as it blew over the jetty. It went a long ways out past the jetty. In a few spots it's worse than others. I had to remove the sound from this video, so I'm doing a voiceover. Sorry about that. The wind was so bad that my microphone couldn't handle it. I couldn't even hear the waves when I was standing next to them. So I'm just gonna kind of talk your way through the video and hope everybody enjoys this. I bent down and I thought I saw a nice hunk of quartz, and it wasn't very thick, so tossed her back. They actually cleared some of the path, but not all of it. Bits of shell everywhere. I did pick up a few pretty nice shiny pieces that were already well polished. Add to my pile that I have at home, of course. They're just starting to work on the cleanup. This is 3 days after the king tide hit them. The last king tide hit them. They get 3 or 4 a year that come in and do the same damage. You can see here I'm coming up on the end of the pathway, and that's the end of where they're working, basically. They haven't gone through this rock slide, or I don't know what you would call it. It's just the waves brought over a ton of sand, gravel, shells, everything. They just brought it right on over the top of the wall there. It was quite impressive, especially when later on in the video I'll show you when I got up in the tower and really got to look around to see how much it covered. But I'm still walking on the path. On the center of the screen here you can see a park bench. These things are made of concrete and they're secured into the ground pretty good, but obviously they're going to be digging a while to get that one out. Back behind me there were 3 or 4 that didn't stay. They actually got blown out of the ground and broken to bits and just laying out there. Kind of sad. Really didn't like that much at all. I mean, they put a lot of work making those concrete benches and putting them in. But as you can see here, it's pretty deep. Hard walking for sure because it's just loose sand. Kind of a gravelly sand, not a really fine sand. This is a inland beach, so it's inside of a bay, and it's, you can look out there, you can see the other side and this side and then the ocean. But yeah, it got clear up to these houses here. Flooded the town. The docks in the marina, people said they were almost having to walk uphill on the docks to get to their boats because it was so high a tide. Yeah, here we're approaching the end of where it come over. I'll show you on the other side here in a minute what it looks like on the beach side. Really just looks like a beach. I hiked a couple miles down this beach in the time I was out here. I didn't film everything. I don't always film everything. But you can see the grass all rolled down from the water coming across it. Pretty impressive what the ocean can do when it's angry. They had pretty good winds with this tide too, so that definitely helped the waves blowing over the top. I thought about leaving some of the sound in, but all I could hear when I was playing back the recording was wind. I didn't want you guys to have to hear all that. So I decided after this first little clip, I wasn't even going to talk anymore. I talked all the way through the first little clip. I couldn't hear a thing. It was cold. Cold and windy. Really doesn't look it here, but I'm dressed up pretty warm to begin with, and still pretty cold. I found the path down to the beach here, which is the normal path. It was hard to find when I was walking down the trail. I know it was there because I've been out here before. It's still a beautiful area, beautiful beach, even if all the dunes are covered in sand and the grass is laid flat. I was just impressed on what the king tide can do. I mean, yeah, amazing. And here I'm walking back over to the beach. Ended up walking almost all the way down to the end of the jetty that you can see there on the left-hand side. That jetty runs out, and where you can see the marker there and the end of the jetty, that's the ocean right out straight in front of me. Till the other side, you can see the land on the other side, and that's Ocean Shores. It's across the bay. The waves were impressive. The tide is just starting to come in at this point. Normally it's covers all these footprints you see in front of me. You can see the last high tide line right here. But I walked over and I was like, oh man, these things are crashing like thunder. And then I played back the video and I couldn't hear the waves. I was quite disappointed. I'm gonna have to work out my audio a little better so you can hear that and not just all out wind. It was blowing like crazy. It was a beautiful day on the beach. Even if it was, I think it was 44 degrees, 12 miles an hour wind coming out of the north, which puts it about 32 degrees. Pretty cold. Not too bad. I'm used to the cold, but I'm not used to that wind biting through my clothes as much as it did. Yeah, I hiked around the beach pretty good out. Didn't get up on the rocks too much this time because these waves were crashing the rocks and blowing over them still, even though it wasn't a very high tide. It was angry. The water was angry. A lot of foam. Normally I'd be over there on the rocks, sit down, have a beer, and watch the waves crash, but they were all sopping wet. It's like, oh, I don't really want to get my butt wet, so I didn't sit down on the rocks. It was very enjoyable being here. Just watching the waves is beautiful. And just as I turned the camera off after this clip, believe it or not, one of the birds come flying along the edge of this thing like a surfer running through the tunnel. It was pretty cool. But of course, you know, it happens when you turn the camera off, not when the camera's on. I was quite impressed with this. There was a lot of people out there, even though it was windy and cold. You don't see them much on camera here and there, but as I'm sitting in my cabin looking out over the water, you see them. You see them walking down the road. You know, they're doing the same thing. Just come out here and enjoy the experience. It was the first time it hasn't been raining in a while, so it was quite enjoyable to get out there. As you can see, the sky's not bad. The upper clouds were moving inland, the lower clouds were moving out, so it was kind of confusing when you look at the sky. But anybody that's been on the ocean or the beaches, they understand. Nothing like the sound of waves. You can see there's a lot of foam at the tip of the waves. In a way, it's kind of neat. It didn't stay long, so it wasn't a really rough foam, but boy, some of the pictures I took a lot of pictures. That foam was just, 2 or 3 inches thick, and it disappeared in a couple seconds. There were a lot of surfers getting out around the jetty and running the waves along the edge of the jetty, which just sounds crazy to me. Nothing but big piles of rocks you got to deal with. But yeah, I was quite upset. The sound of those big waves crashing. Some of them waves were close to 12 feet tall, and man, it sounded like thunder. I was sleeping in the cabin last night, and I could hear them crashing into the rocks on the jetty, and all night long it sounds like a big old storm rolling in, big thunder. quite a good time. It was a spur of the moment thing. The wife and I decided we were just gonna let's go to the beach for a couple days. So we rented a cabin, hit the beach. We hadn't been out here in a couple months, so it was worth it. Not much of a beachcombing beach, but the next day after I filmed this, we went down south of here to a place called Grayland, which is a huge sandy beach. Lots of shells, lots of wildlife. Quite nice, quite interesting. And here I'm on the pathway coming back towards the Watchtower. I would have filmed it going in, but there's a bunch of guys there and they're working and I didn't want to bother them. They got a lot of work to do to fix all this up. You see they got a tractor and they've been over there just trying to clear the Watchtower so that people can use it again. And you see a big chunk missing out of the concrete. There's a couple concrete walkways that are completely gone. I can see the chunks off to the side. The handrail on the ramp, the handicap ramp, got damaged, so they had to kind of rope it off. Not really a great roping off, but you can see the panels are loose. And it's just a huge pile here. I was shocked. And you can see the rocks. Here where I'm looking is all flat grassland. All of this was flat. You can see this bench is filled up almost to the seat right there. Looks like a log got jammed there and stopped it from getting too bad. But I know the waves were hitting this tower, and they're hitting it good because of the sand on the stairs. See it as I'm walking up the tower. Whole bunches of sand all the way up on this first tier and almost up to the second tier. You can see it here up on the second tier, then it just kind of lightens out. Most of the rest of the sand's just from foot traffic. The wind was so bad here, there was no way I could use the sound. I'm sorry about that. I hate doing a voiceover type thing, but yeah, sometimes you have to. Good view from up here. I've been up this tower many times. Every time I come to the Westport, I climb the tower, walk around, look around. And a good shot of the jetty here and the wave breakers. You can see the waves just still splashing clean up on the rocks. But during king tide, they were making those rocks disappear with the waves. That's how big they were. Here they're just slamming into them. But out there is where the surfers would be, on those little spits, just riding the waves, enjoying it. Here's the harbor and an overlook of the town of Westport. A pretty good view. The camera doesn't do it justice, but pretty good view. You can see those piles on the right hand side there in the middle to the left now. This looks like stacks. Those are crab pots. Crab season is closed in our area because of algae. So there's thousands upon thousands of crab pots stacked everywhere. And they kept bringing stuff in right in front of my cabin. They were bringing them in all day. Truckloads. Very cool place to visit. If you ever do get out here to Westport in Washington State, definitely go this spot. Get out here and look. They call it a whale watchtower, but I've never seen a whale in this harbor. I know they are some, but I've never seen one. Never been lucky. And here I'm on the road walking back to my cabin. Same area I stayed in last time, just a different cabin. We decided to get one facing the beach instead of the harbor. We won't do that again. We'll definitely go for the one facing the harbor. A lot more action. You know, and you get a better view of the boats going in and out. You're out of the wind. Even on our front porch, the wind was horrible and cold. We spent a lot of time out there anyway. People out walking about. Here in the ground level, it wasn't bad. The wind wasn't super bad. And the place was packed. Always is, year round. And they have a little fire pit area here with a propane barbecue. Over here on the left hand side they have a cleaning station for crab, clams, stuff like that, which is nice of them to have. They got running water and everything there. I haven't seen anybody ever use it, but they have it. Cute little cabins, just like the last one I stayed in. Except this time the only one they had left was a handicap version, which was kind of nice. It had a huge bathroom, huge shower, king-size bed, which wife and I both enjoyed that part. Big old bed. But being on the end, the wind was coming from in front of me there, and you can see my chair blown over on the deck because it's a light chair. It didn't handle the wind so well. And at night we'd bring them inside so they didn't get soaking wet. View from on the deck wasn't bad. See all the crab pots stacked up in front of us there. That was our main view pretty much. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little clip. And